All right, here we go, 21 through 30. Number 21 reads, the hours passed with incredible slowness. What are we talking about? Hours, write it down, draw the structure. What did the hours do? They passed. Back to the beginning. What kind of hours? The hours. That's it, so don't put anything else. How did they pass? Here's your prepositional phrase. With, and the noun, the object, is slowness. What kind of slowness? Incredible. Incredible slowness. That's how that one should look. If you got it different than that, recognize your errors and then change them. That way, if this one shows up on the quiz, you'll be able to do it correctly. All right, let's take a look at number 22. Number 22, soon, with soundless steps, Zoe followed. Now remember, yesterday I told you that today some of these would be rearranged. They don't necessarily go subject and then verb in the order of the sentence. All right, soon, that's not a subject. So any of you that put soon as your subject down, what's a soon? Can you point to a soon? You can't even do a soon. Soon is actually an adverb, but we'll get to that. Soon, with soundless steps, Zoe followed. Who are we talking about? Zoe. Write it down, draw your structure. What did Zoe do? She followed. Back to the beginning. Nothing describes Zoe, so we're going to leave it blank. All right. When did she follow? Soon. How did she follow? With is your preposition. With what? What's the noun? What's the object of this preposition? Not soundless. That's right. Steps. With steps. What kind of steps? Soundless. That's an adjective. It describes the steps. All right, make your changes if you need to. Then let's take a look at the next one. Number 23. Yeah, that one was kind of fun, wasn't it? I got up and turned around in my tracks. All right, I is your subject. I. Write it down, draw the structure. What did I do? I did two things. Got up and turned around. So we're going to need the double prong. You know, and is a conjunction. It's going to go on the dotted line. I got up and turned around. Okay, now let's stop there for a second before we move on. Some of you might have put got as your action, your verb, and up as an adverb, because that tells you where you got. I can appreciate your thinking in those terms, but that doesn't really work. Okay? What did I get? An up? It doesn't work like that. How did I get? It almost works that way. But got up, that's your complete action. Okay, so that's what I want you to think about. Same thing with this one. I turned. How did I turn? Around. If you did it that way, I can see your line of thinking. But turned around is a complete action. All right, because sometimes it's not really a physical turning around. It's like an attitude, like, you know, you need to turn yourself around, stop misbehaving. So you're not really going to go, okay, I don't misbehave anymore. No, it's, you know, in this case, you could argue that I did physically turn around because our verb, our prepositional phrase says in my tracks. In is your preposition. Tracks is the object of the preposition. What kind of tracks? My tracks. Okay, so I turned in my tracks. I turned around. I could almost see that. So if you happen to do that on the quiz, I probably wouldn't mark that wrong because I can appreciate the way that you're thinking on that. All right? But that's how I would do it. All right, let's take a look at number 24. Filled was the air with dreamy and magical light. Filled is not your subject. Just because it's the first thing in the sentence does not automatically make it the subject. Filled was the air. The air was filled. All right, so air is your subject. Write it down, draw the structure. Was is a linking verb. It's always going to be a linking verb. It has to go there. So what does was link to? The air was filled. Back to the beginning. What kind of air? The air. That's pretty much it. How was it filled? With is your preposition. With. And what's the object of the preposition? It was filled with light. Okay, now you do have a conjunction, and. It was filled with light. What kind of light? Dreamy and magical. There's no need for for a double prong here. All right. Dreamy light. Magical light. And that's where your conjunction would go. Are you starting to realize that everything that we've been learning all year long still applies? Just because we've jumped into prepositions doesn't mean that the other things that we learned don't apply anymore. We're constantly building on top of it. Okay, we're almost halfway through. Let's take a look at number 25. All right, 25 reads, the two friends were occupied with a large tin pot of tea and a kettle of food. I know, that's a long sentence, but again, just break it down step by step. The two friends were occupied. Friends. And I know there's a typo on there. Friends. You've got a linking verb, were, and it links to occupied. Yes, I can spell. Occupied. Friends were occupied. Back to the beginning. What kind of friends? The friends. What other kind of friends? Two friends. I think that's pretty much everything that describes friends. And how, when, where, what were they occupied with? They were occupied with is your preposition, and with two things. With a pot and a kettle. Two T's in kettle. A pot, large pot, tin pot, pot of tea. There's your prepositional phrase. And what kind of kettle? A kettle and a kettle of food. Another prepositional phrase. Yeah, that one was fun. Okay, if you got questions about that, you need to either chat with me on LMS or bring it up at the Zoom meetings. I'll be more than happy to help you out with that. There's nothing new there. It's just a little bit more of it. All right, 26 was another fun one, but it actually turns out to be easier than you realize at first glance. 26, the earliest rules were centered around rights and duties. We're talking about rules. You've got a linking verb, were. What does it link to? Rules were centered. Rules were centered. Back to the beginning. What kind of rules? The rules. Earliest rules were centered around. Around is your preposition. Around. Around what? Around two things. So yeah, we're going to draw another double prong. And is your conjunction. They were centered around rights and duties. Rights, like a ritual. Not like your right hand, or you have the right to remain silent. Spelled differently, it means something different. All right, now when you look at that, it's not really all that complicated. Again, like I've always said, just ask yourself these questions, take it one step at a time. All right, number 27 now. Pride meets with problems upon every occasion. We're talking about pride. Write it down, draw the structure. What does pride do? It meets. Nothing describes pride, so we're going to leave it blank. How does it meet? It meets with, is your preposition, with what? Problems. All right, now comes the almost tricky part. I fear that some of you may have put upon every occasion describing the problems. I hope that you didn't do that, because it tells you when, where, or how. It meets, when does it meet, or where does it meet? Upon, that's your preposition. And the object of the preposition is occasion. What kind of occasion? Every occasion. That's how 27 should look. If you got a question about that, jot down a little note, send it to me in the chat. All right, number 28. In the middle of the room, a round table stood on a beautiful rug. Let's use our common sense. What are we talking about? We're not talking about the room. First of all, the rule of grammar of the room, that's a prepositional phrase, so it can't be the subject. In the middle of the room, a round table stood. All right. Again, if you're having trouble finding the subject, maybe it's easier you can find the verb. And we know that there are no linking verbs here, but there is an action. It stood. If you can figure that out, then ask yourself the question, well, who's doing the standing, or what is doing the standing? What stood? The table. The table stood. Okay, now back to the beginning. What kind of table? A table. Small table. I think that's everything. Oh no, not small, I'm sorry. Round. A round table. Like King Arthur. Round. That's it, not small. Round. In the middle of the room, a round table stood. All right, where did it stand? In, that's your preposition. In room. What kind of room? The room middle, wait, hang on a second. Not, let me back this up. In the middle of the room, middle is going to be your object of the preposition. In middle, the middle, middle of room. The room. All right, in the middle of the room, a round table stood, and where else did it stand? On rug. A rug. B-E-A-beautiful rug. All right, that one was fun. I like it when it makes me think. It improves your brain capacity when you have to think, like doing puzzles. If you have to figure something out, then you're learning more and it's increasing your knowledge. In the middle of the room stood a round table on a beautiful rug. Whew! Work up a sweat on that one, didn't you? All right, 2 more to go, and these are going to be pretty simple. Take a look at 29 now. They went in a hurry from house to house. They. What did they do? They went. Nothing describes they, so we leave it blank. All right. How did they went? How did they go? In hurry. A hurry. And where did they go? They went from house. I hope that you didn't do this. Put the next prepositional phrase under there. What kind of a house? A true house? See, that doesn't work. They went from house. They went to another house. True house. They went from house to house. They went in a hurry from house to house. Alrighty, the last one, number 30. You did decide upon the green one.
Is here to sign a check.
You is your subject. Did is your linking verb. It's a form of the word be. I told you that yesterday. You did decide. Nothing describes you. How did you decide, or what did you decide upon one? The one, green one. Okay, nothing new this week. More of the same to help reinforce your knowledge of the subject. Take a little bit of time now to practice, to review, to study. Remember, just reading them over and over and over again, that's a bad way to study. Redo the structures. You have the correct way to do it. Hopefully you have made those changes if you made any mistakes. Now you can take the sentences and go off somewhere and do them all again and then compare. If you got them all right, then you're ready to take the quiz, no problem. If you didn't get them right, then figure out what you did wrong. Give me a chat. Ask me, why is this not here, or why, whatever your question is. Otherwise, good luck with the quiz.